Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video we have a lot to talk about. So first of all, the Attorney General is suing Commanders owner Dan Snyder. We also have the terrible statement the Commanders put out yesterday involving Brian Robinson into the situation, and we have a Commanders player calling out Dan Snyder. So we're going to talk about all that in today's video. Make sure you guys hit that sub button. It's free. It takes 1 second. Trying to get to 10K by the end of the year, and hit that like button and turn on those notifications. What's happening right now is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, every single week we get a new allegation, report, or something with Dan Snyder. Nothing happens. So I'm just at the point of where I just want him gone, whatever it takes, get him out of here. Hopefully it happens soon, and we'll get into what happened today. So Attorney General Racine, he says, breaking, my office is suing Commanders owner Dan Snyder, the Commanders, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, and the NFL for colluding to deceive district residents, the heart of the Commanders fan base, about an investigation of toxic workplace culture. So a lot to unpack there, and I'm not a legal expert, so obviously don't understand all of it. And then he said, after public reporting revealed their misconduct, harassment, and misogyny ran rampant for decades at the team, the defendants promised D.C. residents that the league was going to fix the toxic culture, including by fully cooperating with an independent investigation. So we'll see if this really amounts to anything. Maybe that's the reason Dan Snyder is selling. I honestly don't know. It's just another thing that's mounting on top of Dan Snyder. JP Finley says, so far the Commanders have gotten away with it. That stops today. DC filing civil suit against Snyder, Goodell, the Commanders, and the NFL. So a lot there. A lot. But I think, this isn't really going to do anything that major. I think what's happened already has happened. I think Snyder's going to want to sell. I hope this doesn't get him, really, really upset and maybe wanting to keep the team. I don't think that's going to be the case. But overall, this isn't gonna, put him over the edge of, making the NFL or having the NFL forcing him out. I think he will be selling the team, and I don't think this changes that at all. Maybe if anything, it speeds it up a little bit. Hopefully, it does, so we can get him out of here as quickly as possible. Some of the comments, such a nothing burger, civil suit. This makes Dan look sympathetic to some. And yeah, you guys can see the rest. So nothing major in my opinion. And then some other thing, and the AG Attorney General said that they'll talk about this next week, but about the financial improprieties that Dan Snyder and the Commanders have had over the years. So Commanders, or I'll read this right here. So multiple 106.7, the fan listeners tell us they've recently received letters like this one from Commanders years removed from having season ticket plans. This person hasn't had tickets since 2008. Seems like the team says it has deposit money it needs to give back to fans, or report/remit to state. So they obviously were doing something wrong, and they're going to have to pay their season ticket holders back. And more of that will probably come out next week. I thought that's what was going to happen today, but it's just the suit against Dan Snyder. And it's just another thing, this Dan Snyder lawsuit that he's had every week. There's a new allegation, and this is just another one of those. And the financial improprieties will be next week, and they'll talk about that officially. And there's still the Mary Jo White investigation that's going on. There's so much going on. And yesterday, which was absolutely ridiculous, they saw that the Attorney General is going to make a press conference tomorrow. They saw that, and they released a statement kind of reacting to it. And they said, less than 3 months ago, a 23-year-old player on our team was shot multiple times in broad daylight despite the out-of-control violent crime in D.C. Today, the Washington Commanders learned for the first time on Twitter that D.C. Attorney General will be holding a press conference to make a major announcement related to the organization tomorrow. And they just kind of, say a bunch of BS at the end. So this just is absolutely disgusting that, to try to deflect the situation, they mentioned Brian Robinson, which has absolutely nothing to do with what the Attorney General his announcement was. It was about the misconduct that's happened with the team and just everything that Dan Snyder's done over the last 23 years. And it had nothing to do with Brian Robinson. And to try to get some sympathy, they mentioned Brian Robinson in the beginning and that how in DC he was shot multiple times. But that has nothing to do with the situation. And I think they were trying to get sympathy from the fans, but it makes it just so much worse. And his agent spoke out saying, the Commanders up until an hour ago, he said this last night, handled this whole situation with class, but he kind of called it a disgusting statement and cannot blame him. And he kind of made a clear delineation, so I'm mispronouncing that, between the front off or the football side of the team and the business side. He said, there are good people in this organization. I think he's meant, kind of referring to Ron Rivera and the coaches and everyone that supported, and the players obviously supporting Brian Robinson. But I think this is from Dan Snyder. There's no way to, prove it, but no one would be dumb enough or tone deaf enough to put out this statement. Like, I just don't think Jason Wright put out this statement. I can't, believe that he would put out something like this. It's just not a good look at all. And maybe he had a final say in it, or, Dan Snyder wrote it and said, I'm going to put this out. And maybe Jason Wright and others said, you shouldn't put this out. But at the end of the day, Dan Snyder has the final say. But I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous. And you see the response. I did not like the response at all. So this is from Jason Wright. I spoke to Chief Commentator conveying how much we support the work of MPD as well as, blah, blah, blah. And then he just makes up a bunch of excuses. And the last sentence of, a paragraph response is mentioning, he says the lawyer's legitimate frustrations with the AG should have been separate and apart from referencing the terrible crime that affected our player. Doesn't even mention Brian Robinson by name and, takes some accountability, but in my opinion, not enough. And it should have been the first sentence. The first sentence of this report should have been mentioning how they messed up. They should not have brought up Brian Robinson in that statement. That should have been the first sentence, because that was an egregious error. And to put it in the last sentence of it, I just don't like that. I just do not like that at all. And they don't even have Brian Robinson's name in it. So I just don't like anything that's happened the last 24 hours with this team. And then Benjamin St-Juste kind of called out Dan Snyder the other day. I don't know what platform it was on, but he kind of talked about how there's been a dark cloud on this organization ever since he joined, and that it would be good to have a fresh start. So he doesn't directly call Snyder out by name, but basically does. And you got to have some balls to do that, and props to Benjamin St-Juste for doing that. He's been pretty good this year for the Commanders, their best corner, and hopefully he continues to play well, and hopefully there's no real punishment for him to say, after him saying this, and maybe Snyder won't even know that he said that, because it hasn't gotten so much attention. It's gotten a little bit, but not a lot. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Benjamin St-Juste there, but I commend him for that statement right there. And maybe more players will do it. And Brian Robinson talked about how it wasn't a big deal. He's just, kind of handled this whole situation with class. And, but, maybe it did rub him the wrong way. It is what it is. Just another distraction that the football side had no control over. And the business / Dan Snyder side of things just made something a big deal going into a game that, is a big game for them. So, yeah, just a lot of things to unpack there. Any more updates, we'll get into it. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Tomorrow I'll have an actual football video out. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.